The wind howled across the empty parking lot as Amanda Carson peered through the frosted window of Tom's Pit Stop Diner. Through the swirling snow, she spotted a semi-truck pulling in, followed by another, then another. Within the hour, 12 truckers filled her normally deserted restaurant, all stranded by the sudden blizzard that had shut down Highway 29. With barely enough supplies to last the night and a stack of overdue bills on her desk, Amanda made a choice that would change everything. She opened her kitchen, her home, and her heart to these strangers, not knowing that in just 2 days, an endless line of big rigs would stretch down the road toward her failing diner. What happened next would become the stuff of trucking legends. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. And if you want more stories that touch the light within your heart, like this video, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. Welcome to In the Heartlight. Let's begin. Tom's Pit Stop had been a fixture on Highway 29 for over 30 years. The cheerful roadside diner with its neon coffee cup sign was known for hearty meals, friendly service, and the booming laugh of its owner, Tom Carson. Tom had built the place from nothing after spending 15 years as a long-haul trucker himself. He understood what drivers needed: good food, clean bathrooms, and a place where the coffee was always fresh no matter the hour. A trucker's life is measured in miles and meals, Tom used to say. And I aim to make sure at least one of those things is worth remembering. The walls of the diner were covered with trucker memorabilia, license plates from all 50 states, vintage CB radios, and hundreds of photographs of smiling drivers standing next to their rigs in the parking lot. Each picture had been carefully labeled with the driver's name and the date they'd stopped by. It was Tom's way of honoring the road warriors who kept America moving. For 25 years, Tom and Amanda ran the diner together, building a reputation that spread through CB radios across the country. Truckers would adjust their routes just to stop at Tom's place, knowing they'd get the best slice of apple pie between Chicago and Denver. Then came the heart attack. Quick and merciless, it took Tom while he was doing what he loved, serving breakfast to a group of drivers during a busy morning rush. One minute he was refilling coffee cups and telling jokes, the next he was gone. Amanda found herself alone with a diner to run and a promise to keep. "Don't let this place die with me, Lynn," Tom had told her years earlier. "This isn't just a business. It's a lighthouse for those boys and girls on the road." For 2 years after Tom's death, Amanda kept things going almost as usual. Regular customers still came by, often sharing stories about her husband that made her laugh through her tears. But then came the highway department's decision that would change everything. Economic necessity, the letter had said. Highway 29 was being rerouted 3 miles east to accommodate a new distribution center. The old route would remain open, but would no longer serve as the primary thoroughfare for interstate traffic. Within months, the steady stream of customers dried up. Truckers following their GPS devices were directed to the new route, where a gleaming truck stop with a national chain restaurant had opened. The loyal customers who knew about Tom's Pit Stop still came when they could, but they were too few to sustain the business. Amanda had tried everything to keep the diner afloat. She reduced hours, cut staff until only she and Jenny, a waitress who had been with them for 12 years, remained. She refinanced the mortgage, used their savings, even sold their vacation cabin in the mountains. But the numbers didn't lie. Last month's earnings had totaled just $2,743, not even enough to cover the utilities and food costs, let alone the mortgage payment. She was 3 months behind already, and the bank had made it clear: pay up or lose the place. The for sale sign had been in the window for 6 months, with not a single serious inquiry. Amanda had started packing up Tom's mementos, unable to bear the thought of strangers clearing them out after foreclosure. Each photograph she removed from the wall felt like saying goodbye to Tom all over again. It was just past 4 on a Wednesday afternoon when the weather forecaster's predictions came true. The storm they'd been tracking for days hit with unexpected ferocity, transforming the landscape into a blinding white void within minutes. Amanda was wiping down the counter, preparing to close early. There hadn't been a customer since the elderly couple who stopped for lunch at noon. The bell above the door jingled, startling her. A mountain of a man stomped his boots on the welcome mat, shaking snow from his heavy jacket. "Coffee, please, ma'am." "The strongest you've got," he said, unwrapping his scarf to reveal a weathered face with kind eyes. "Coming right up," Amanda replied, reaching for the pot she'd been about to empty. "You're my first customer in hours." "Name's James," he said, extending a massive hand. "James Thornton, and I suspect I won't be your only customer tonight. Highway Patrol just closed the road east of here. Complete whiteout conditions with multiple accidents already. Word spreading on the CB that this is the last stop before the closure." As if on cue, the door opened again, bringing with it a gust of frigid air and 2 more truck drivers, their faces red from the cold. "Any chance of a hot meal?" one asked, rubbing his hands together. "Kitchen was about to close, but I think we can manage," Amanda said, ignoring the fact that her food supplies were dangerously low. "Jenny," she called to the back. "Looks like we're staying open after all." Over the next hour, the diner filled with truckers seeking refuge from the storm. They arrived in 2s and 3s, each with the same story. Roads closed, visibility near zero, all desperate for warmth and food. By 6 o'clock, all 12 stools at the counter and every booth were filled with drivers. A sight Amanda hadn't seen since before Tom's passing. The ancient coffee maker worked overtime as Amanda and Jenny scrambled to feed their unexpected guests. The menu had been reduced to whatever was available. The last of the ground beef made into simple patty melts, frozen vegetables transformed into soup, and potatoes fried up as a side dish. Amanda even raided her personal refrigerator in the small apartment attached to the back of the diner, bringing out packages of bacon and eggs normally reserved for her own breakfasts. "Sorry it's not our full menu," she apologized as she served the makeshift meals. "We don't get much traffic these days, so I haven't stocked up." "Ma'am, any hot food in this weather is a blessing," said an older driver with a salt and pepper beard. "We're just grateful you're open at all." As the evening wore on, the storm intensified. Wind rattled the windows, and the snow piled up in drifts against the diner's walls. The radio reported multiple road closures in all directions, and the local motels called to say they were completely booked. As the night deepened, Amanda continued to move among her guests, refilling coffee cups and providing whatever comfort she could. The pantry and refrigerator were now completely bare. She had even used the emergency canned goods she kept for herself. When a young driver named Mike offered to pay for his meal, Amanda waved him off. "Consider it Truck Driver Appreciation Night," she said with a smile that concealed her financial worries. Tom would have wanted it this way. What began as a group of strangers seeking shelter gradually transformed into something resembling a family gathering. With nowhere to go and nothing but time, the truckers began sharing stories from the road. Amanda found herself laughing for the first time in months as they recounted tales of unusual cargo, bizarre hitchhikers, and the strange sights one encounters while traversing America's highways. "I once hauled a single bowling pin from Florida to Seattle," claimed a driver named Hank. "Never did find out why it was so important, but they paid me triple the normal rate to ensure it arrived undamaged." "That's nothing," countered Gloria, one of the 2 female drivers in the group. "I transported a live penguin in a special climate-controlled container to a zoo in Omaha. Had to keep the cab at exactly 38 degrees the whole way." The stories continued, growing more outlandish as the night wore on. Amanda found herself gravitating toward these people, who, like her late husband, lived extraordinary lives, defined by movement and solitude, punctuated by brief connections like this one. It was well past midnight when James, who had been studying the photographs on the wall, called out to Amanda. "Mrs. Carson, is this your husband?" He pointed to a picture of Tom standing beside a younger version of James, both men grinning broadly in front of a red Peterbilt. Amanda moved closer, adjusting her glasses. "Yes, that's Tom. And, is that you?" James nodded, his expression one of dawning recognition. I knew the name Tom Carson sounded familiar. About 13 years ago, my rig broke down about 20 miles from here. Middle of winter, much like tonight. I didn't have the money for a tow, and I was set to miss my delivery deadline, which would have cost me my contract. He touched the photograph reverently. Your husband drove out, helped me fix the problem. Turned out to be a simple sensor issue, but I didn't have the parts. He brought what I needed and refused payment. Said, just stop by my diner sometime and we'll call it even. I did many times, but I guess I never made the connection that this was the same place. From across the room, another driver looked up. Tom Carson? Big guy with a laugh you could hear from the parking lot? That's him, Amanda confirmed. Well, I'll be damned, said the driver, walking over. He helped me during that big ice storm in '09. I was a rookie, skidded off the road about 5 miles from here. He pulled me out with his old pickup truck, then showed me how to properly chain my tires. One by one, other drivers joined the conversation, each with their own story about Tom. One recalled how Tom had loaned him money for fuel when his company's credit card system was down. Another remembered Tom driving 30 miles to deliver a forgotten logbook to a truck stop so the driver wouldn't get cited during an inspection. Amanda listened in amazement as these strangers painted a picture of her husband she had never fully seen before. She knew Tom had been kind to truckers, but she had never realized the extent of his impact on their community. He was like a guardian angel of Highway 29, said Gloria. Everyone knew if you were in trouble near Riverdale, Tom Carson would help you out. No questions asked. He maintained this old CB radio, added Hank, pointing to a unit mounted behind the counter that Amanda had kept more as a memento than a functional piece of equipment. During bad weather, he'd get on Channel 19 and give real-time road reports. Saved a lot of us from dangerous situations. As the stories flowed, Amanda felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the repaired heating system. Each tale was a gift, a new piece of the man she had loved for 30 years. Through these strangers' memories, Tom was somehow present again in the diner he had built. The impromptu memorial continued as the night progressed. Amanda learned how Tom had once organized a convoy of trucks to deliver supplies after a tornado hit a small town 50 miles away. She heard about the time he'd talked a suicidal driver through a personal crisis over the CB radio, staying on the channel for hours until the man reached safety. He never told me about most of these things, Amanda said, wiping away tears. He'd come home and say he'd helped somebody out, but never went into detail. That was Tom, James nodded. He didn't help for recognition. He just saw it as part of being decent. Jenny, who had been listening from nearby, added her own perspective. I remember days when he'd drop everything to drive out and help someone. He'd tell customers, family emergency, but he was really heading out to rescue some stranded driver. As dawn approached, the storm began to abate. The first pale light of morning revealed a transformed world. Pristine white drifts sculpted by the wind, trees encased in ice that sparkled like diamonds. The radio announced that plows were already working on the highway and expected to have it reopened by noon. The truckers, refreshed despite their unconventional accommodations, began preparing for departure. Amanda and Jenny served a humble breakfast of toast and the last of the coffee, apologizing for the limited offerings. After all you've done, you're apologizing to us? James laughed. Mrs. Carson, you've shown us the same kindness your husband was known for. As the drivers prepared to leave, each tried to pay for their food and lodging. Amanda steadfastly refused. Your stories about Tom were payment enough, she insisted. Besides, I'd just be returning the favors he apparently gave out for years without telling me. James was the last to leave. As he put on his heavy coat, he paused by the "For Sale" sign in the window. "You mentioned foreclosure is coming at the end of the month?" he asked. Amanda nodded, the brief happiness of the night giving way to reality once more. "The bank won't extend the deadline again. 3 months behind is their limit." James seemed to consider this, then simply nodded. "Thank you again for everything, Mrs. Carson. I won't forget this night." And with that, he was gone. His truck the last to pull out of the snow-covered parking lot. After the last trucker departed, Amanda and Jenny spent hours cleaning up. Despite their exhaustion, there was a lightness between them that had been missing for months. "Those were good people," Jenny remarked as she wiped down the last table. "Reminded me of how it used to be here." "Yes," Amanda agreed. "It was nice to have the place full again, even just for one night." The following day brought a return to reality. Only 2 customers stopped by. A local farmer and his wife who came in for lunch more out of loyalty than hunger. The silence that followed their departure was deafening. Amanda found herself listening for the bell above the door, for the rumble of diesel engines in the parking lot, but there was only stillness. That evening, Amanda continued the painful process of packing up Tom's mementos. Each photograph carefully removed, each license plate wrapped in newspaper. She couldn't bear the thought of strangers disposing of these treasures after foreclosure, so she had been gradually taking them to her sister's house for storage. As night fell, Amanda sat alone at the counter with Tom's old CB radio. She had never learned to use it properly. That had been Tom's domain. On impulse, she plugged it in and turned the dial. Static filled the diner, punctuated occasionally by fragments of distant conversations between drivers on the move. "I wish you could tell me what to do, Tom," she whispered, holding the handset but not pressing the talk button. "I tried my best, but I'm losing our place." She sat there for a long time, surrounded by boxes and memories, listening to the disembodied voices of truckers passing by on the distant highway. The next morning dawned clear and cold. Amanda opened the diner more out of habit than expectation. Jenny had the day off, so Amanda worked alone, mechanically preparing for customers who would likely never come. At precisely 11:30 a.m., she heard the unmistakable sound of a semi-truck engine. Looking up, she was surprised to see James's distinctive blue rig pulling into the parking lot. Perhaps he'd forgotten something during the hasty departure after the storm. But James wasn't alone. Behind his truck was another semi, and behind that, another. Amanda watched in confusion as truck after truck turned into her parking lot. Within 15 minutes, the lot was full, and still they came, now parking along the shoulder of the road in both directions. The bell above the door jingled continuously as drivers, many more than the 12 who had sheltered during the storm, filed in. Among them, Amanda recognized James, Gloria, and several others from that night, but there were dozens of unfamiliar faces as well. "What's happening?" Amanda asked as James approached the counter. "Word travels fast on the highway, Mrs. Carson," he replied with a smile. "Especially when it travels by CB radio." The diner quickly filled beyond capacity, with drivers standing wherever they could find space. Amanda stared in bewilderment at the crowd, utterly unprepared for this sudden influx. "I don't have enough food," she began to apologize, but James held up his hand. "We didn't come just to eat," he said, "though many of us would be happy to order whatever you've got. We came because of Tom." A tall man in a pressed shirt, clearly not a driver, stepped forward. "Mrs. Carson, I'm William Porter, Regional Manager for Midwest Logistics. I understand from James that you've fallen on hard times since the highway reroute." Amanda nodded, unsure where this was going. "Tom Carson helped at least 30 of my drivers over the years," Porter continued. "And from what I heard about your kindness during the storm, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I've made an executive decision. Starting next week, all our company vehicles making the Chicago to Denver run We'll be rerouting through the old Highway 29 specifically to stop here. That's approximately 20 trucks a day, Mrs. Carson." Before Amanda could process this information, Gloria stepped forward. "I'm with United Transport, and we've made the same decision. Our main route was only 3 miles away anyway. We can spare the 10 minutes to support this place." One by one, representatives from various trucking companies and independent operators made similar pledges. Amanda stood frozen behind the counter, unable to believe what she was hearing. Then James placed a thick envelope on the counter. "This is from all of us who were here during the storm and many others who knew Tom over the years. We took up a collection." With trembling hands, Amanda opened the envelope to find it stuffed with cash and checks. A quick estimate told her it was more than enough to catch up on the mortgage and keep the diner running for months. "We can't bring Tom back," James said softly, "but we can make sure his legacy doesn't disappear. That sign out front says Tom's Pit Stop. Well, we aim to keep stopping." As if this wasn't enough, an older driver Amanda didn't recognize approached with a familiar object in his hands, a CB radio handset. "Tom gave me this years ago when mine broke," he explained. "Said to bring it back sometime, but I never got around to it. Seems like the right time now." A young woman with bright blue hair stepped forward next. "I'm not a trucker, Mrs. Carson. I'm a graphic designer. My dad was helped by your husband back in 2010. I've made something for you." She unrolled a large paper to reveal a professional design for a new sign. "Tom and Amanda's Trucker Haven," written in bold letters above a stylized image of a diner with trucks parked outside. "If you like it, we've already arranged for it to be manufactured," she added. "Consider it our thank you." Before Amanda could respond, the CB radio behind the counter crackled to life. Someone had turned it on during the commotion. A voice came through clearly. "This is eastbound Eddie on Highway 40. Anyone got a copy on the Carson situation, over?" James picked up the handset. "This is James Thornton. Operation Payback is a go. Tom and Amanda's place is staying open. Spread the word over." "Copy that, James. That's good news. We'll relay to the Minnesota crew heading south, over." Throughout the afternoon, the CB radio continued to buzz with similar exchanges as the word spread across trucking routes throughout the Midwest. Amanda watched in amazement as her husband's old communication system came alive with messages of support from drivers hundreds of miles away. With the immediate financial crisis averted, Amanda made a decision. She went to the front window and removed the "For Sale" sign, tearing it in half to the cheers of everyone in the diner. The transformation of Tom's Pit Stop was nothing short of miraculous. The parking lot had been expanded to accommodate the constant flow of trucks that now made the diner a regular stop. The staff had grown from just Amanda and Jenny to 7 employees working in shifts to handle the round-the-clock business. The mortgage was now paid in full, thanks to the initial donations and the steady stream of customers that had followed. Amanda had used some of the money to renovate the kitchen and update the menu, though she'd been careful to keep Tom's favorite dishes exactly as he had prepared them. The new sign, "Tom and Amanda's Trucker Haven," gleamed above the entrance, and the walls once again filled with photographs of drivers and their rigs. Amanda had started a new tradition of taking a Polaroid of first-time visitors, creating a growing mosaic of the trucking community that had saved her. Tom's CB radio maintained its place of honor behind the counter, always on and monitored by whoever was working the register. Amanda had learned to use it properly, often taking a moment to give weather and road condition updates, just as Tom had done. On the 1-year anniversary of the blizzard that had changed everything, Amanda hung a special new photograph in the center of the wall. All 12 of the original stranded truckers, plus herself and Jenny, standing in front of the diner under the new sign. James had organized the reunion, ensuring everyone could attend despite their busy schedules. That same day, a young couple stopped in for lunch. Amanda overheard them talking. "This is the place I told you about. the woman said excitedly. "My uncle says it's legendary among truckers. They say the owner and her husband have helped hundreds of drivers over the years." Amanda smiled as she refilled their coffee cups. "We try our best," she said simply. That evening, after closing time, Amanda sat at the counter with a piece of Tom's apple pie and a cup of coffee. The day's receipts lay before her, more in a single day than she used to make in 2 weeks before the blizzard. In the quiet diner, Amanda could almost feel Tom's presence beside her. She imagined what he would say about everything that had happened, how proud he would be to see his legacy not just preserved but expanded. "You were right, Tom," she said softly to the empty room. "This place is a lighthouse. I just didn't realize how many people would help keep the light burning." She thought about how close she had come to losing everything, how the rerouting of the highway had seemed like the end. Instead, it had ultimately led to this moment of peace and prosperity. Sometimes life's detours took you exactly where you needed to be. Outside, she could see the headlights of an approaching truck, likely the first of the overnight crowd. Amanda stood, straightened her apron, and prepared to welcome another traveler home. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories from In the Heartlight. Remember, sometimes the greatest kindness comes back to us in ways we never could have imagined.